back to Crashing the Glass. My name is AJ, and we've got a lot to get to today with the regular season winding down and playoffs starting soon. I thought it'd be a good idea to look back at the Sacramento Kings season. It's been a turbulent one. It's been a rocky one. And as a Kings fan, I just wanted to discuss the events that have transpired this season and their future outlook going forward, along with my favorite breakout players of this season. But before I do, I've got to talk college basketball. The Final Four was absolutely electric. We were treated to two great games, two defensive-oriented games. And in the Florida and Auburn game, Florida's second half run was fueled by defensive intensity and having the best player on the court. They went into halftime down 6, and they came out of halftime looking like a completely different team, in my opinion. They had a lot more intensity on the defensive end that led them to cap off the win. They shut down Broome completely, made him a non-factor in the second half, and although he's a great player, there's only so much that a team can do when your best player is being shut down or just not having a great game in a win-or-go-home scenario, especially in college basketball with the nature of March Madness. One of the thoughts that I had after watching this game, and just thoughts that I've had throughout the tournament, is Walter Clayton Jr.'s NBA potential. Now, I should not be a scout because I would pick this dude definitely in the lottery, maybe top 10. That might be a stretch, but I think that he has the it factor. I think that he could grow to be a great player in the NBA. I know that he has some deficiencies on the defensive end especially, and offensively, he's not a great playmaker. His size, he's a little small. But even with that said, I still think that he has true NBA potential, whether it's as a starter, role player, a spark plug coming off the bench. And it's a hard sell with his size and not being a great playmaker. I think that you have to be a great playmaker if you are as small as he is at 6'3". But even with all that said, I still think that he could provide a lot of value to NBA teams. And I think that he has a lot of potential that he will grow into as he fills out, as he develops his game in the NBA. I think he's one of those players that could benefit from going to the G League and getting some reps there and then working his way up to the NBA. On to the next game, Houston and Duke. Now, this one was the matchup of the night, in my opinion. This was a highly, highly defensive-oriented game. Duke's defense in the first half, and honestly throughout the entire game until the last 10-minute stretch, was absolutely stifling on Houston. They could not step 2 feet in the paint without getting the ball stripped, without losing possession, without getting a bad shot. Nothing was going down for them, but they were hitting threes, and that kept them in the game through halftime, and that allowed them to stay close enough in reach to feel like, hey, we can come back in this one, and eventually they did. I had a question of whether Houston came back or Duke collapsed. I think it was a bit of both. I think Houston did fuel their comeback, and it looked like they just out-hustled Duke in the end. There was a possession where Cooper Flagg just got blown by and burnt on the defensive end, which just shows the exhaustion that was taking place with the Duke players. And I'd seen a post after the game where all of the Houston guys are so well conditioned. The slowest mile ran on their team is like a 5-minute, 30-second mile, and that's insane that the slowest guy is running a sub-6 mile. And it showed in their game against Duke. They had better conditioning, and this is one of those games where hustle beat skill. Duke was the more talented team. They have the projected number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft, along with 2 other potential first-round picks. And Houston just ran them out of the gym in that second half. And Duke only scored 1 field goal in the last 10 minutes and 30 seconds. Let me repeat that. Duke only scored 1 field goal in the last 10 minutes of the game. There is absolutely no way that you can win a basketball game when you're not scoring field goals. in a game of that caliber. And after the game, and even as it was happening, I had the thought that this loss is probably going to be beneficial for Cooper Flagg in the long run. Although it hurts in the moment, I think that he is going to learn from this. I think that that last shot that he took and missed is going to be one of those shots that he remembers, whether he wants to or not, and it will fuel him to become the best player that he can be so he doesn't ever feel that kind of loss again. And it's inevitable. He's going to feel that loss again, but I think that the drive for success is going to outweigh anything else. And we have the title game tonight between Houston and Florida, and I'm looking forward to this one. I think that these two teams are going to match up really well against each other. They both have great defense. Florida has had the great comebacks in multiple games this season, and I'm just looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be a dogfight. I've got Florida. I think that they have the more well-rounded team. I think that Walter Clayton Jr. is going to be the best player in the game, and I think ultimately that is going to be the determining factor in the outcome of this game. I saw this question posed on social media talking about who is the worst player in the NBA that you can put on a 16 seed in the March Madness tournament and they win the national championship. And I thought that was such a fun thought exercise, thinking about NBA players and how they would mesh in with college basketball. And I think that there are many NBA players you could put on a 16 seed and they would go on a deep run, but winning the national championship is always going to require a bit of luck, even if you do have a great player. But I think you could go top 40, top 50 NBA players, and I think that they can confidently win the national championship. I think if you take a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein, I think he is a great example of a guy that could go on a 16 seed and just completely dominate. What's important to me with this thought exercise is size. I think that you take a grown man in the NBA who has put on NBA level muscle and put him up against college guys who just haven't had the time to do so, and they just aren't old enough to have that grown man body. I think that you could absolutely dominate. You take a guy like Steven Adams and you put him on a 16 seed, and I think they run the table. I think they win it all. I think it's also player dependent too. I think there are certain players that work better in a system, and there are certain players that are the go-to guys. I think if you put Malik Monk on a 16 seed, I think that they could run the table. But I think if you put a guy like a Drew Holiday, a glue guy, you put a guy like Alex Caruso on a 16 seed, I'm not quite sure if they win it all. In any case, there was some crazy NBA stuff that happened in the past week as well. We had the Jokic 60-point triple-double. We had the Steph Curry 50-point game. The Nuggets and Timberwolves double overtime game was absolutely insane. That game, I think, might have been the game of the season for me. I can't remember the last time I saw a double overtime game live. And I really thought that the Nuggets were going to win it in the last minute of the double overtime, but Russ comes out and kind of just wets the bed. He absolutely killed their momentum in the last couple of minutes. The last couple of possessions where he fouls Alexander Walker in the corner and takes a layup right before that where they had the lead. I'm not sure what was going through his brain, but that's what you get with Russ. You get a bit of a mixed bag. He's an Energizer bunny. He's going to make some great plays sometimes, but he's also going to make some boneheaded plays, and that's just who Russ is. And I think in order for the Nuggets to really go on a deep postseason run, he's going to have to clean up his game, slow down when it comes down to crunch time, and I think that's going to come down to him and also, Coach Mike Malone, also with Jokic and Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon, the veteran guys that are in that locker room saying, hey, Russ, let's slow down the pace and let's lock in. Anyways, I've rambled enough. Let's get into the title of this episode. Let's talk about the Sacramento Kings. It has been such a roller coaster of a season. There have been some huge highs. There have been some huge lows. It's been a bit all over the place. And the season kind of kicked off with the signing of DeMar DeRozan in the offseason. I actually was at Golden One when the trade went down at the California Classic, watching the young prospects of the Kings and the Hornets and the Spurs and the Chinese national team. And I was all in on this trade when it happened. The arena kind of erupted when he walked into Not Like Us and sat courtside with De'Aaron Fox. And that was just such a moment for I think Kings fans to have a free agent signing of DeMar DeRozan's caliber coming to Sacramento. I thought that he really elevated the team. Even if the fit on paper wasn't perfect, I thought that there was enough talent between him and De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis that they're going to work it out. With Keegan Murray and Keon Ellis as the young pieces, I thought that we had a great team going into the season. And we only had to give up Harrison Barnes, Chris Duarte, the 2031 pick in 2 seconds for him, which, in my opinion, isn't even that much. Even looking back on that trade, I think that we still do that trade 100 times over, even just for the value alone. Now, trading the 2031 pick hurts a little bit, but I think that we can make some trades around the edges to get our draft capital back up. After the DeRozan trade, maybe it was a bad omen, but we went 0-5 in the preseason, and at the time, it was an inside joke between my girlfriend and I, like it's just preseason, right? Like, they're not going to look like this in the regular season, and they didn't to start. They were okay, and then they kind of floundered, and this team didn't quite look as good. I thought that they just needed more of a gelling period. You pair a guy like DeMar DeRozan, who is a mid-range shooter primarily, with De'Aaron Fox, who is also a mid-range shooter, doesn't really allow for a whole lot of spacing. When you have Kevin Huerter, who can't hit a shot, you've got Keegan Murray, who's in a bit of a down year, and Keon Ellis was getting DNPs to start the season for whatever reason. Didn't agree with that decision at the time, but I trusted Mike Brown. I thought he knew what he was doing. After the 13-18 start, after a 6-game losing streak in late December, Mike Brown gets fired. He had just been coach of the year and a half prior, which is absolutely insane how quick the turnaround in the NBA is. And I don't think it's so much that they fired him. I think it's in the way that they did it. It was completely classless. They let him know in the car after a practice and after he had already talked to the press. That's just no way to go about firing a coach. And afterwards, the front office can't even own up to what they did. They didn't talk to the press about anything and just left the press to assume, hey, maybe De'Aaron Fox is the guy that wanted Mike Brown out, which turns out, we find out now, it's not the case at all. Fox actually wanted Mike Brown to stay. And that's the reason that he wanted to go to San Antonio and kind of requested a trade from the team, is because of Mike Brown's firing and the way in which the organization handled the situation. Moving forward, I'll get to that in just a moment. After the Mike Brown firing, Doug Christie steps in as the interim head coach, and I must say that he has done a fantastic job with the squad this season. Maybe Mike Brown's firing had a little bit to do with the play of Keon Ellis and the lack thereof. I think that there is no reason that Keon Ellis should have been getting DNPs with the caliber that he was playing at, even the end of last season. And it doesn't make sense that as a team that struggles with defense, that we wouldn't play one of our best defensive players. He wouldn't even be coming off the bench. He's just getting DNPs and not playing at all, which is absolutely insane looking back now. Anyways, after Doug Christie becomes the interim head coach, they go on a 7-game win streak, back to 500. Things are looking good. Then De'Aaron Fox requests a trade. The crazy trade deadline that included Luka being traded, Jimmy Butler being traded, so many big names being moved. De'Aaron Fox was one of those names, unfortunately. And I don't blame De'Aaron Fox for wanting to be traded out of Sacramento. I think that the front office had plenty of time to construct a roster around him that would compete, and they failed to do so. Although in this latest offseason, they did acquire DeMar DeRozan and seemed like they were trying to construct a team. It just didn't work out, and I think that there had already been too much bad blood in the past between De'Aaron Fox and the Kings. and I don't blame him one bit for wanting to be traded out. They had plenty of time to handle the situations differently that as they presented themselves, and he wants to play on a team that has real potential, because right now the Kings are in mediocrity. They're stuck in no man's land as far as the NBA goes, and I'm going to get to that a bit later, but I don't think that's the worst thing in the world for the Kings at the moment. If there is friction between a player and the front office and the organization, I think it's always best just to move on. And although you can try to repair those tensions, sometimes they just are what they are. And I think in this situation, it is what it is. No bad blood from me towards De'Aaron Fox. I think that he did what he needed to in order to get the most out of his career. When the De'Aaron Fox trade happened, I was a bit sad. He's the longest tenured Kings player. He was one of the best draft picks that we've had ever in Kings history. But I was excited because we traded him for Zach LaVine, who is a former All-Star and an absolute offensive juggernaut. I thought that LaVine was going to elevate this team to another level, or at least keep them on the same level that we were at, and I was wrong. He did not do that. I glossed over his defensive shortcomings and did not recognize De'Aaron Fox's defensive upside quite as much as maybe I should have. Looking at the stats on paper, I thought LaVine was going to fit in great with his team. Great shooter, one of the best offensive players in the NBA. But there's just not enough defense on this roster to be a true contender. I did like the other moves at the trade deadline as well. Signing Jonas Valanciunas, signing Jake LaRavia, signing Markelle Fultz. These are all great moves that I was very proud of Monty for, because up until this point, we haven't had any huge free agent signings in the offseason or even at the trade deadline, and I thought that these moves really made us look better on paper. And getting young talent like Jake LaRavia, and getting finally a backup center, sorry, Alex Len, that can actually play real minutes when Domantas Sabonis is playing, or even when he gets injured and is out, really makes us look like a lot better of a team. But there are just too many problems with this roster currently. So where do the Kings go from here? What do the Kings do moving forward? And there are lots of opinions online. I go on Reddit every now and then just to keep my pulse on what's going on the Kings subreddit. But there is a general opinion of the small majority, I'm not saying everyone on Reddit, just a very, very small majority, that are just such doomsday preppers. Anytime anyone has a bad game, it's like, oh, trade him. Anytime we lose a game, it's like, oh, blow it up. Now, what they don't recognize is that it's just one game. It's just one play. It's not a big deal. Obviously, there are some true problems with this roster, but I don't think we have to overreact to every little small detail. I think looking at it in the bigger picture, we can see that, okay, we've got some real talent on this team, but none of it meshes very well together. And this team is kind of like the Misfits, just a bunch of great individual talents that don't work well together. Now, there are a couple options moving forward. Option A would be to ride it out. Keep these guys under contract for as long as we can and just see what this team can do. Maybe they just haven't had enough time. We only have had Zach LaVine for 2 months. Is that too small a window to see what this team can truly do? That is not my opinion. I think that we should move on from some, not all, of the guys that we have. We've got LaVine, Sabonis, DeRozan under contract for at least 2 more seasons, and maybe they just need more time to mesh and work it out. But I think the biggest glaring hole with the Kings is that there is no true point guard. We have LaVine running point sometimes. We have Malik Monk running point sometimes. It just doesn't work out for a full 48 minutes. You can run some stretches without a point guard and it'll work out fine, but when it comes down to a crunch time situation, we need a true facilitator. The only true point guard on this team, in my opinion, is Markelle Fultz. I think that Malik Monk is not a point guard. Zach LaVine is not a point guard. And Sabonis, obviously a center, but I think that when you run the offense in the half court through him, he functions as somewhat of a point guard in the same way that Jokic and Sengun do, functioning as the offensive hub for the team, especially in the half court. The other option for the Kings is to blow it up and trade all of our assets, trade all of the veteran guys, and keep Keon Ellis, Keegan Murray, and let everyone else go. Now, I think this is a bit over the top. I don't know if we need to do all that, but it seems like that's the majority of Kings fans think that this is the case. Now, here's my take on it. I think that not every team has to compete for a title or be competing for deep playoff success every year. I think that as a Kings fan, it's okay to be mediocre sometimes. I know there's this online culture of mid and like you don't ever want to be mediocre, but I think there are worse things to be as a Kings fan. Do we really trust the front office to make the right moves in order to set us up for future success? We've been in a playoff drought for 13 seasons. Are we really going to try to go back to being one of the bottom feeders and trying to get a high draft pick and playing the lottery game? I will give credit where credit is due. We have had some very good draft picks the last couple of years. I've been very happy with the picks that have been made. Starting all the way back with De'Aaron Fox, good pick. Tyrese Halliburton, great pick. Didn't work out on the Kings, but I think that we got Sabonis for him, which is a great asset. We drafted Queta in 2021, Neemias Queta, and for whatever reason is flourishing on the Boston Celtics and couldn't do that on the Kings. Now, I know why. It's because the Kings can't develop players very well. But drafting Davion Mitchell, which was a great pick. I love watching him play on the Miami Heat. I think he really fits into Coach Spoelstra's defensive game plan. I think that he's one of Spo's favorite guys to come. Keegan Murray, great pick. I like the Devin Carter pick as well. There's enough talent on this team that we can make some complementary edge moves to make us better. I think that either Zach LaVine, Malik Monk, or DeMar DeRozan have to be traded. Maybe two of those guys need to go. I don't know which two of the three. I like them all. I think they're all great players, but they don't mesh well together. There is too much of an overlapping skill set with this team. There is not enough spacing and not enough defense. I mean, the only plus defensive players on this team at times, it feels like, is Keon Ellis and Keegan Murray. And that's it. That's about all they got. The struggle moving forward is that Zach LaVine is on a $44 million contract, which is hard to move, which is why the Bulls had a hard time moving him. They had to sit on him for almost 2 years before he got traded. So maybe he's the guy that we hang on to and construct around him and Sabonis. Here, that's a concept. I think that those two players can work well together. I think Malik Monk can work with those two guys. But then where does DeMar DeRozan fit in with them? It's a puzzle that you just can't quite solve with this roster. I think that it's okay to construct this roster to cap out at a first or second round series. As long as we are making the playoffs as a Kings fan, I'm happy. As long as we're being competitive and winning games. I don't think that we have to be reaching for a championship contender caliber in order to be a successful team. Setting our sights that high is, in my opinion, setting us up for failure, because I don't think that the Kings front office is ever going to construct a roster in the next 10 to 20 to 30 years that is going to be at that competing level. Now, I can't say for the far future, but I think that this roster has too much talent to completely blow it up, but I also don't think that we should keep this roster together either. I think that there is a perfect medium between the two where we keep some of the most impactful guys and trade the others. I think building around a Keegan Murray, Keon Ellis, and in my opinion, Domantas Sabonis is the way to go. Sabonis might want out, and then we might have to move on from him, but I think we need to prioritize getting draft picks to re-up our equity. I think that we have kind of fallen behind as far as drafting goes, and we need to catch up with the current landscape of the NBA. It feels like we have a veteran roster among all of these young teams that are absolutely outrunning us and out hustling us. There's a youth movement happening in the NBA, and we can see it with some of the best teams like the Thunder, one of the youngest teams in the league, and they're absolutely dominating. I think that adopting a formula more like that is the way to go. It kind of reminds me of the movie Moneyball, where we are one of the old teams and every other team has adopted this new strategy of going young and building your team through the draft instead of trading for veteran talent. In any case, that's probably enough Kings talk for today. Let me get into my favorite breakout players of this season. Now, there were a lot of guys that I had in contention for this list. I think that this has been such an exciting NBA season. Some of my honorable mentions are Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Peyton Pritchard, Max Christie. All of these guys have made such an impact, and it's so hard to choose, a top 5 or top 6 guys. Even the Terror Twins and Amen Thompson and Tari Eason, they've both really stepped up their game and are part of the reason why the Rockets are the 2 seed right now and looking like they're going to hold on to that too unless they completely fall apart at the end of the season. But I want to highlight some of these other guys. Up first is a bit of an odd one, but I've got Karl Anthony Towns. Although we've seen him play at an all-star level before with Minnesota, I think that being traded to New York and playing under Tibbs and playing with Jalen Brunson and the system that they have there has really opened up his game to another level. He is playing with a different kind of energy that we've never seen from Cat before. Moving him back to the full-time 5 has really opened up his game. He is averaging the most rebounds of his career, and he's shooting the best three-point percentage of his career. Now, that might just be because of the great spacing that New York has, with Brunson being a plus three-point shooter and OG Anunoby being a plus three-point shooter, Mikal Bridges being a plus three-point shooter. They have great spacing in New York, and that's really opened up his game. I think that he has taken a different approach than he had in Minnesota, and it has really worked out well for him. My next guy is Austin Reeves. He has truly, truly broken out this season under LeBron James, and with the addition of Luka, he is looking like the best third option in the NBA. There was that conversation going around social media where who's the best third option? Is it Austin Reeves? Is it someone on the Celtics? Is it Evan Mobley or Darius Garland, who is the number 3 option? In my opinion, the third option is the third offensive option, not the third best player on the team. Now, in the case of the Lakers, Austin Reeves is both. He's the third best player on the team, and he's also the number 3 option on offense. In the case of the Cleveland Cavaliers, you can make the case for Evan Mobley being the third or second or even best player on the team, but the third option offensively. In any case, Austin Reeves has really grown this season. He's averaging 20 points per game, 4.5 and 6, and in his last 5 games, he has scored 30 points or more in 4 of them, which is just absolutely insane. He has really, really taken a leap this season, and I can't wait to see how he progresses. And I heard this story where when Austin Reeves was a rookie or maybe second year in the NBA, and he was complaining, like, why is LeBron on me so hard? Like, why can't I just catch a break? And then someone else told him, like, dude, like, LeBron believes in you. And that, I think, is a story that tells how good Austin Reeves can be in this league. Next up, I've got Christian Braun. I think he's really stepped into the starting role in Denver. They opened up the role for him after KCP left, and they needed him to step into that. And he has done a great job, averaging 15, 5, and 2.5, being one of the best transition players I think I've ever seen in the NBA. The way that he can go coast to coast with a full head of steam and still finish is crazy. I think I see him have at least like one big dunk per game. And he hasn't lost any efficiency either. He's averaging 57% from the field, 39% from 3, and 82% from the free throw line, which are just great splits for your starting shooting guard. And we've also seen a rise in his minutes per game consistently through his NBA career. His rookie season, he was averaging 15 minutes per game, then up to 20 his sophomore season, and then now he's averaging 34 minutes per game. That is consistent growth, along with his points per game going up and His free throw percentage actually going up too, which is crazy. He's averaging 82% from the free throw line, up from 69% his sophomore season, up from 62% his rookie season, along with his points per game increasing each season, going from 4 to 7 to 15. He is just one of my favorite stories in the NBA, and I can't wait to see where his game takes him. Next up, I've got Dyson Daniels, one of the best defensive players in the NBA right now, in contention for Defensive Player of the Year. Although it is so hard for a guard to win the award, I think he has as good of a case as any. He's averaging 14, 6, and 4 with 3 steals per game. He is one of the best perimeter defensive players, I think, in the NBA ever. He has 219 steals this season, and the next highest is Shea with 130. He has almost 100 more than the next closest, running away with the competition, along with 6 deflections per game, which is just absolutely crazy. He has 422 deflections on the season, and the next highest is Keon Ellis with 249. So running away with the competition in deflections as well. Now that's a great segue into my next breakout player this season, Keon Ellis. Maybe it's my Kings bias, but he is absolutely one of my favorite players in the NBA right now. He is a defensive specialist. The defensive intensity that he brings to the Kings really elevates their roster to another level when he's on the court. He has also elevated his three-point percentage. He's shooting 43% from 3 this season on 4 attempts. He is establishing a role for himself as a 3-and-D maestro. He is one of the best stories coming from an undrafted rookie to a starting level point guard, shooting guard in the NBA. Although we could still see some growth with his offensive game, especially with his playmaking, I think that the sky's the limit for Keon Ellis. Now, my last breakout player of this season is Norman Powell. Another one of the best stories this season. He has jumped up 8 points per game with good efficiency, on a Clippers team with low expectations coming into the season, with Kawhi Leonard being out. Him and James Harden have really taken this team to a place that I think many of us didn't expect them to be at this point in the season. The West standings are absolutely crazy right now. We've got a 2-game difference between the 3 seed and the 8 seed. So anything can happen. We've got the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Clippers, the Warriors, the Timberwolves, and the Grizzlies all right in that stretch. The Clippers could have home court advantage in the playoffs after Kawhi being ruled indefinite for his return at the beginning of the season. And it's very rare that you see a player his age elevate their game offensively the way that we have seen him do it. Almost unheard of, but he has been able to do it. It's almost like they asked him, hey, Norman, we're going to need you to step up big time offensively. We're going to need you to average 8 more points per game. We're going to need you to carry some of the offensive load. And he's like, bet, and just does it nonchalantly, no problem. And it's interesting because his minutes per game haven't gone up a whole lot, but he's just increased his offense greatly. He's gone from 26 minutes per game to 32 minutes per game, but his points per game is increased by 8, which is almost more than a point per minute, which is crazy. They're just asking him to do a lot more. Going from one of the best 6th men in the NBA to a potential all-star consideration this season, and there was a great case for him being an all-star, is truly amazing, his ability to improve that much. That's all I got for today. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday for the next episode. And by the time I release this, we'll know the national champion, whether it's Florida, whether it's Houston. The game starts in 30 minutes, so can't wait to watch that one. And I'll recap that one the next time I upload. And it's pretty crazy. The NBA regular season is coming to an end. Just had my fantasy championship, and I lost, unfortunately. But hey, we'll get him next year. It was my own doing in the championship game. I made one too many moves and couldn't pick up a guy on the last day when I had someone out. But it is what it is. Follow me on Instagram at Crashing the Glass Pod. Follow the show wherever you listen to your podcasts, and rate the show 5 stars if you enjoyed. Until next time, peace.